You are listening to the ReRACEables podcast. Hello and welcome to the ReRACEables podcast. I'm your host, Tom. I'm joined today by two very special guests, Aparna Eswar from season 32 of The Amazing Race. Thank you so much for being here. It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Super excited to be here talking to everyone.
So let's start pre-race, right? Coming into this all, we get to meet each of the teams through their bios, through some Instagram videos. Not too much, but enough stuff is out there. And I just want to start here, Aparna. You said that in your bio, I'm going to be on the race when I'm older. You said that to your dad. And you're proud of yourself for not letting it be a pipe dream and but actually going to an open casting call, trying out and making a dream a reality. So how were you able to do it? Take me through that dream to reality piece.
Every super fan, my dad introduced me to the show when I was super young. We didn't travel that much growing up, but back when the race used to air on Sunday nights, we would all sit around the TV, we'd eat dinner and watch the show. And that was our way to travel growing up. So, I just remember it was season 10 or something when the race actually went to Chennai, which is where the two of us were born.
Mm-hmm.
We were jumping around our living room because that was the first time, we're obviously immigrants to this country. A lot of people didn't know where we were from. And then the race, went there, and people that we grew up with were watching the race were they went to the place we were born. It finally felt the place we were born was had a spot on the map. People knew what that was because the Amazing Race went to it. So I told my dad, was when I told my dad, I was we're gonna be on it. We're gonna 100% do it. And I just kept watching the race. And I think when I was younger, I thought I would do it with my dad. I thought, my dad and me, it's going to be an us thing. And then when Eswar kind of turned 21, I saw an open casting call. And, at that point, Eswar and I had been he was doing his own thing. I was doing my own thing. We hadn't lived together a couple of years after we moved out. And, I just thought it'd be a great experience to do it with my brother. Someone that you'd grown up with, knows so much about you, but probably in more of he knows me as an older sister. I know him as a younger brother. So we went to an open casting call. I swear to God, how naive I was. I thought that 5 people would show up. I thought 5 people were going to show up and they were going to pick us, and that's it. That's how it was going to go. And we literally roll up and there's 1,000 people at the open casting call. And some people even had matching costumes. Me and Eswar rolled up in different color t-shirts, and we're oh, shit, now they're not going to include us. We didn't even have matching gear together. But I don't know. We just went in there, answered a couple of questions, and we auditioned February 2017. And we didn't hear back until the summer of 2018.
So over a year after we auditioned, we got a call. And so we got an email actually first. And I remember Aparna called me when I was at work. And so I stepped out of my office and I talked to her, and she's like, hey, did you see what we got? Did you see this email looks like something from CBS? You think it's real or fake? And we figured it was real because I don't know who else would have known that we even applied for this show. And and then from there we did a couple of kind of tryout videos, and were brought to studio to kind of for the folks at CBS to see how we interacted and just what our relationship was. And they liked what they saw, which was pretty surprising.
I think it was probably the most LA thing I'll ever do. We're not from LA, right. We're from NorCal, but it was the most LA thing. We went to casting and there were all these drop dead gorgeous people with their 6 packs and whatever. And oh shit. I think the whole experience when we were casting and auditioning, me and Eswar were probably I don't know if we'll get on it. I mean, we'll just give it a try. And we were just kind of bicker. I think the things that we had going for us was that one, we were a brother-sister team. There hadn't been a brother-sister team that had been cast in a really long time. 2, I think that the two of us there was a lot of siblings teams this season, right. But I think we weren't kind of one of those like joined at the hip siblings. Like we weren't like Haley and Kaylin on our season, or Addison and Riley who like worked together, lived together. You know, we're very different. It's a brother-sister pair. And then I think that we just kind of like, I think what the race like is really about is like relationships. And like when you have someone that like has known you your whole life, you just have like years of like roasting and laughter that you can like pull on. And like the two of us just had like all these like dumb stories of us when we were kids, and like that's our relationship. And so we kind of just like put it on the table, like this is who we are, like we're kind of a bickering pair of opposite siblings. And like I think that resonated. I mean I think the main thing that like the casting crew really look for is just like how deep your relationship is with the other person.
Right.
That's what it seemed like, at least having gone through it. And maybe if anybody's watching and wants to audition, like that, I think that's what Lynn had said too. Like, don't go with someone who you met for the last year, like someone who really knows you and like you have that depth in relationship. Yeah. Having said that, though, Leo and Alana had only known each other for 10 months, but
they're an awesome couple. So yeah. but yeah, like Aparna said, I think like we obviously have known each other our entire lives, and the show really is about relationships. Unlike other shows, it's less about like interactions between teams as it is about the interaction between the members of a team, right? It's really about that kind of story of how you grow as a team and how you grow in your relationship over the course of the race, which I mean, it is true. I can't think of a team that went through the race in our season that didn't learn something valuable or cool about, not cool, that's like a horrible word to use, but like, so they didn't learn
it's good
about the other person, you know?
Yeah.
So what did you guys learn then?
I think for me, it was, so obviously Ishwar's my younger brother, and, you know, I'm the older sister. And I think I grew up thinking, you know, like typical younger brother stuff about Ishwar. I was like, oh, he's so dumb. It doesn't have his shit together. Like, I gotta like, you know, like, I think I felt like I was the boss and he kind of just like listened to me. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to say that without sounding mean, but like, it's just a very, like, if you have an older sister, like, I feel like it's a very like older or sibling kind of like thing. You're just
I have an older brother. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it's like that older sibling kind of energy. And then Ishwar, like, I think the race, what it taught me was just, you know, having not spent that much time with Ishwar before doing the race, like, you know, he's completely different than me. He's like an adult. He's made a lot of decisions on the race, which I think, you know, helped us like, you know, not be eliminated. And it just made me respect him a lot going through that process with him. Like, wow, like I can really rely on my brother. Like, I think I always used to feel like I was kind of the boss or whatever in our relationship. And, you know, I think after that, I was like, you know what? Like, Ishwar is actually really smart, really intelligent, thoughtful. He pulls his own weight. He's better than me in some things. And just, I left really, really kind of just feeling a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, I think I would say the same thing. Like, we hadn't really interacted. We hadn't really hung out often after high school when we both went different ways for college. And so the race experience really, like we in my mind, Aparna was still the girl she was when I was a junior in high school. And I think it's the same for Aparna, right? So yeah, like really getting to spend a lot of quality time with Aparna over the course of the race definitely framed how I view Aparna in a different way than like, oh, she's just my older sister from when I was like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
That's very familiar to me because I am the younger brother, my older brother, until there was always that gap, 4.5 years or so. Yeah. And at that point, when he was in college, I was in high school. And when I went to college, and I actually went to the same college that he did, we had, I think, some level of, we didn't travel the world, but we had that experience that brought us from here to here.
Yeah. And that's what I think the race did to us. Well, I'd say the other thing that was also cool was, you know, the two of us, like being on the race is like this, for 30 days, you're doing something completely different than what you'd normally do. Like me and him before the race, we're both engineers. We kind of like, you know, had our friend groups, did our work, whatever. And then for 30 days, like you're traveling the world, you're, experiencing all these different cultures, you're doing some crazy things. And I think when you come back into your real world, it's weird for a couple of days because you're just like, wow, like my life 2 days ago was like this. I was like building a floating farm in Cambodia, and now I'm like doing this. And like, it's just those moments where like, it made me want more adventure out of my life. And so Isha and I actually, after we finished the race, we actually started a company together. Like we were just like, wow, we were dying to like be risky, be adventurous. Yeah. And like, I think like my biggest takeaway was that you don't need to have that just on a reality TV show. You can bring that like crazy, like, that risky adventure and like chaos and I don't know, like sense of like adventure into your day-to-day life. And live every day as if you were on The Amazing Race. That I felt like was something both of us took away from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think also like the race definitely changed how I travel, because it shows you can travel without, you can do the normal thing. You can do like kind of quote unquote normal ways of travel. Like you take a flight out to Paris and like you stay in a hotel. I don't think that's normal, but like that's kind of when people think about travel, they're like,
I understand.
So that's kind of what you do. You go visit the normal spots. You go see the Eiffel Tower. You go do this. You do all the touristy things. But the race really gets you. First, you're like traveling with very little things, and it feels like you're kind of slumming it. You sleep on airplanes, sleep on trains, and you also see sides of places that people don't often see. Right, like you see the historical or cultural things, not just the places that show up in the first paragraph on Wikipedia. So I think because of that, like, I definitely think it's influenced how I travel and my willingness, to stay at hostels. I literally still use the backpack that I took on the race. Anytime I travel or backpack, I went to Peru earlier this year before COVID, and then Mexico City before that. And I just took the same race backpack and just stuffed it with the same amount of clothes. And yeah, it just changes the way you travel and the way you approach the world, I think. Well, at least it did for me.
So just to go back to casting for a moment, is it that much sweeter to take the path of true casting and not be recruited? When you think back on that, does it feel a little bit sweeter to you? Because I've spoken to a lot of the other teams, and they each have their own story, and a lot of them have they found me on this or was recruited by that. And it doesn't sound like you had that experience. And I wonder if that makes it a little bit sweeter to have been yourselves and authentically you and to get to the same platform as they did.
Yeah.
I can't speak to whether it was sweeter, but I do think one thing that's cool about it is, for us, is I don't know if I would call myself a super fan. But I was a huge fan of the show when I was growing up, and then I stopped watching it, but it always had a special place in my heart. And I think Aparna, maybe you would call yourself a super fan of the show. But like, because we'd been fans of the show and that was the reason why we tried out. I think that maybe, like you're saying, maybe it was an element
just
of it being
like,
sweet.
we binge watched it before we went. It was like, it felt big to us because we had seen it growing up, and we were on it. The other thing that I would say kind of about your question is, I think what's been awesome for me while this was airing is so many people who are of like Indian descent or South Asian descent have like messaged me and said like, wow, like it's so cool to see someone like myself on TV. And like, I think that, if you think about the people that are probably recruited, it's probably like the super famous athletes because, they're famous and you want some of those on platform. Or it's probably like models or like really, really like, like think about your like very beautiful folk. And I think the more like normal or like, people of like underrepresented communities don't often get recruited. And so, for us, this was probably the only way we could have ever been on a show like The Amazing Race. And because of that, like people have reached out and just literally some of them have like brought me to tears because people have said like, I love the show growing up. Like my parents, like we never thought we'd see someone like you, like on the show, make it past the leg. And like our whole family watches it now every night to root for you guys. And like, that's like such a sweet message to get from people who never get to see themselves on these kind of shows. And so I think the more like people of, underrepresented communities and genders and, backgrounds end up being on the show, the more diverse people will apply to be on the show. Like if you never saw someone like yourself being on the race, you probably wouldn't even go and apply. And so what I hope that this does is, I think Jeff Probst on Survivor said something similar. Like as Survivor has like gotten more popular and people from, they've put people like from different communities on the show, those communities end up applying to the show because they're like, someone's broken that glass ceiling for them. So I think, you know, the race this season was the most diverse cast it's ever had. Like how cool is that to be on one of the most diverse casts it's ever had? Like that felt awesome.
Yeah. Especially with like the year that we've had, I think people seeing that on TV. And I mean, we're not the first. I would say there's people before us that kind of broke that for us, like the Twinnies on the show. And then there's people that have always come before in some capacity, but yeah, like just, I think for your average American seeing it this, especially with a year like this, seeing a cast that gets along very well while being from totally different walks of life, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. It's definitely something special. And
I would have like never thought that like I'd sit here and like, you know, be friends with some football players and some Olympians and like those are like, I consider them part of our family now. And like that is so cool that like people from different walks of life have been able to just form such close friendships.
What's cool as a viewer is something that we seek, everybody in this time, is connection. And as a viewer, seeing and talking to all of you, I mean, I have I'm grateful to be able to talk to all of you and understand a little bit more the connection that you have. But I think that's something that we're all seeking in this time. And it's through the race. I know that's helped me with that sense of connection that I think is a little bit of a void for a lot of people in this time.
Yeah.
It's been so weird though, seeing me on TV, like touching other people. Like when I was doing that challenge in India, like so many people were messaging, they're like, this was obviously pre-COVID, right? Like I can't even imagine doing that right now. And I was like, yep, I can't either.
It feels some of those, like the dentist challenge in Hyderabad just feels so strange, like out of a different universe. Like,
I really felt the same way watching.
I know, like I wish we had seen what the other challenge was. The other one seems so much cooler. Like I felt so bad the whole time doing that challenge because I was like, I didn't want to hurt the guy. And they were so like, those people were awesome. They were like just dealing with a bunch of crazy Americans trying to get out of it.
So did you, let's go back to representation. You know, you get to the Hollywood Bowl. I'm sure you're feeling a ton of different feelings, anxiety, maybe a sense of raw emotion, joy, whatever. But in that moment, aside from those things, do you feel in that moment before it all starts, or maybe in the lead up, a sense of we are representing Indian Americans. We are racing for them and the people before us, the people after us. Was there any sense of that at that starting line in that moment?
I think for me, there was a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you're on TV and people are gonna see that, you know, whether you want it to be a part of your like, this is my poster identity, but like it is a part of who we are. And so, you know, we knew that like there had been two other kind of Indian descent kind of folks who had been casted before us on the race, and both of them had gotten eliminated leg one. And so I just didn't want, I just wanted to be like, oh, I don't want to be like another Indian team that's like eliminated leg one like that. Sucks for someone who's like wants to run the race in the future and be like, wow, we've had a pretty bad track record as I guess a race. And like, you know, like, and so I felt a little bit of just like, I just want to do well. Like I want people who are watching us to like feel like we're a team that's worth rooting for.
Right.
I think the thing that made us feel anxious though was that we had all been brought to LA, you know, the Hollywood Bowl. And then we were waiting there for 5 days before the race officially started. And we had no idea when the race was going to start. Literally Friday came through and they said, hey, pack your bags. Today's when you're starting the race. Yeah. And like, we'd been feeling anxious the whole week. Like
I had my birthday, actually. I was stuck in the hotel room before
it was Thursday. Started. His birthday was on Thursday and we couldn't talk to anyone. We'd already turned in our phones. And
I remember asking some of the folks from CBS, like, hey, it's my birthday today. Can me and my sister just walk like down the street and grab a drink at this bar or something, right? And they were like, I mean, they were very kind. They weren't a lot. I mean, just because of they couldn't have that variable of, two of the cast members wandering off on their own.
Yeah.
And so they didn't let us, but they were super nice, and they knew from one of the questionnaires that my favorite candy was Recess. And so they brought me a ton of Recess, and they all sang me happy birthday. So yeah, I don't know where that question started, but it was just a very fun memory that popped into my mind.
No, but like the question was like, we were feeling so anxious by the time we got the Hollywood Bowl, because it's like the anxiety of like waiting all through casting, and then waiting all through that week in the hotel room. And like, that was the first time really we had seen all the teams lined up together. Like, we were sizing up a competition. Like, in my head, it was like, it hit me when I was at the Hollywood Bowl. I was like, oh my God, this is it. Oh my God, this is it. Like, this is it. Like, we're on The Amazing Race. Like, up until that point, like, it didn't feel real. Like, sure, we had done all our prep, done all our stuff, but like, the moment you see Phil, and Phil's like getting ready to say like, the world is waiting, like, ready, set, go. Like, your heart, like, my heart was literally pounding. Like, just talking about it.
My heart is. I'm sitting on the couch. I know. Come on.
But it's like, and the thing is like, they do a couple of like false starts just to like catch Phil saying it and all of our reactions a couple of times. So like, they shoot that like a couple of times, and then they're like, okay, don't run now. But like, every time you're building up, and then like finally they're like, okay, guys, this is the for real one. At that point, you're like, your anxiety's through the roof.
Yeah. It was also interesting because you didn't really get to, we hadn't said a word to any of the other teams. So when you're waiting around at the Hollywood Bowl,
weird,
like, sizing everyone up, like, okay,
like,
you're going to talk to them.
These people are going to be your friends or competitors, whatever. Like, I guess they could be your enemies, but like, up until that point, the only conversations we had was like these little hallway conversations. Like, the blondes would always smile at everyone and be like super happy. And like, D'Angelo and Gary had this face. So I was like, you could tell they were annoyed that they were in that hotel room the whole time. Somebody, like, a couple of teams thought that we were like a dating couple, and D'Angelo and Gary were like, nah, just the way that they were looking at each other, you could tell they're
definitely brother sister.
Yeah, but like, it's just, you knew nothing about these people. But then by the time they finally let us like run, the race started, we're at the LAX airport. It was like, wow, it feels like we're friends, because I've just seen you for a whole week without really getting to know you.
Quite the interesting experiment and social situation for sure.
Yeah, totally.
But oh, look at that. It's look at that. I mean, you guys are.
I totally don't expect that.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, D4. Okay. Wow.
All right, folks. I you're on a bit of a race here. I mean, it's engineer, entrepreneur.
Yep.
What's it gonna be? It's just questions.
I'll do engineer.
Engineer.
All right, engineer. So, if you were designing the race, what places would you want the race to hit and travel to?
That's a great question. Let me take that one.
Awesome question. I want to take.
I'll go just starting. From
it's a detour. It's both of you. It's not the roadblock.
Oh, sure. Okay.
You pick one, then I'll pick one.
Okay, so we're starting in the U.S. So next place I'll say is Mexico.
Oh.
Well, where do you want to start in the U.S.? L.A. or?
That's a good question. I'll start in the Bay Area.
Okay.
The Bay. We're from the Bay.
Great choice.
So we're gonna go down to Mexico.
Mexico City,
and then I want to go to Chile.
Okay. So you go to Chile after that, and then I think after that we would fly to Lagos in Nigeria.
Okay.
Okay. I want to go to Ethiopia.
Okay.
So,
Addis Ababa.
Okay, yeah, Addis Ababa.
Okay. So we go to Ethiopia, and then after that, maybe we fly from there to. I know technically Americans can't go there right now, but Tehran in Iran would be an amazing place to go.
Oh, really? Okay.
If we can ever open up our relations with Iran.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very cool place that I've heard they're very hospitable to Americans. So then.
Okay, so we just skipped over Europe then? Because we went down South America, then we went to Africa, then we just went straight
Yep, you did.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
I mean, we don't need to go to Europe. They always go to Europe.
Europe is definitely
keep heading east. Keep heading east.
So then maybe, I want to hit up for sure both Japan and Korea.
Okay, we should hit Nepal before that though.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll do Nepal.
And then Japan and Korea.
Climb Everest, then hit, right? You gotta
climb Everest. Yeah. We're not talking about any of the challenges though that we did in all these places. Like, why did you pick Mexico City?
Oh, challenges. Well, I don't know if we can figure out detours yet, but I just like Mexico City a lot. It's a beautiful city.
So maybe it's like a food challenge.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe historical. There'd be a lot of challenges, you know?
Yeah, that's your week. You're not dipping this. In Chile, I want us to like, what's the like the Andes? Isn't that where the Andes Mountains is? Yeah. Okay. So there's got to be a detour related to the Andes Mountains. Okay. I don't know what you want to do in Nigeria, but in Ethiopia, like Ethiopia is the place where they like first discovered coffee, and so I'd want to do some kind of like coffee tasting like detour. Like, you know how with coffee you have to taste like, is it more like fruity, chocolatey, nutty, whatever? Maybe there's like a fruit challenge there. Okay. What would you want to do in Iran? Like, why'd you pick Iran?
Okay, let me take a step back. I think Mexico City would be dope because, like similar to Hyderabad, it was a city where it had many different like historical periods, and Mexico City I think really has that. So the challenges could show the cities, like days when it was an Aztec city, and then the days when it was ruled by the Spanish, and then modern day Mexico City.
There you go.
And
sounds good.
Lagos in Nigeria. I've never been to Nigeria or Lagos specifically. So I can't speak to what would be very cool to do there.
I'm thinking something like like you did where was that in Brazil with like a village and the food situation, something like that maybe.
Yeah. It's a very ethnically diverse country, so something around that would be cool. And then Tehran I've heard food is also amazing there.
Obviously, we're massive foodies. Every place we're going is going to have a food related challenge. And then the thing that I loved about, like, I want to do in Japan and Korea is I feel like Japan, we got, like, there's that whole anime district. There's probably like a video, like kind of like in the India, like we had like that whole video game challenge. There's probably something that we could do related to like the anime scene over there, like related to maybe video games or movies. Honestly, in Korea, I really just love the food. So like, there's got to be something.
As long as there's food, you're in.
We'll make it so this edition of the race will be the only challenges will be every place you go, there's a spice challenge.
Yeah.
And whoever eats all the chili peppers first, the local chili peppers first.
Yeah.
Proceeds.
There's gotta be. Yeah. So Koreans just have the best food.
So then where does it end? Does it end back in the Bay Area? Does it end at the Golden Gate where you guys were at the beginning when you jumped on the call here?
Why don't we do New York?
Right where I'm from. That'd be cool. Love to have you.
Okay, yeah. Let's do New York. Like, I feel like.
But we're just choosing, coastal cities at this point. We're ignoring a vast swath of this country. So maybe we'll do Kansas City or Denver.
Yeah, we can do Denver.
All good.
That would be cool. Yeah.
We're just being coastal elites right now.
Next question. How would you re-engineer the race? What kind of changes would you make if you were re-engineering the whole race? Maybe the structure, legs, whatever.
I think there's two things that I would probably do to change, like add as rules in the race. One is, I think, in controversial opinion, we shouldn't be allowed to share answers with other teams. I think in this season, there was a couple moments where or share answers with more than one team. Like, I think one of the things, like in this season, for example, I thought it was incredible how Hung figured out sauerkraut when she was walking down the tower in Germany. And that was probably a challenge that production thought would take some teams hours. I mean, it did. Like Haley and Kaylin, it took them hours.
True.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like there was a huge part of that episode where like, because, Hung figured it out and then told D'Angelo, and D'Angelo told Madison, and Madison told Will, like that part of the race, like felt like they had just swiped a get out of free jail card and was able to figure it out, kind of really quickly. And I just think that like, absolutely I got help from Leo, but it was like me and Leo, and I think they sped it up when they showed it, but me and Leo sat around for like 20 minutes talking to each other, trying to like map out all the words, like literally like trying to figure it out together. And I think that there's got to be some limit on who you can share answers with, like how many times you can share answers with, because it's just, you just can put some teams at a really big disadvantage. And I think it kind of, like, you could tell that because that happened, one of the things that was actually on the clue in Kazakhstan, what at the Cons challenge, it apparently had written down, you cannot tell other teams the answers. And apparently they did that because, you know, they thought maybe another thing like sauerkraut would happen again. So that would be one thing. There's just a lot of moments in the race where I felt like it was just a big unfair advantage. Like, for example, in India with the place setting, you know, the setting the table, like it took me so long to figure out, okay, it's 24 by 14. Like I spent time figuring out, because you don't know, right, in the race, what details are actually, the judges are actually going to look for. Is it a single person's length? Is it the distance between two chairs? Like there's a lot of things that you're sitting out trying to figure out by yourself. And it just makes the race harder because you're trying all these things and you're figuring it out. And like when Riley told Will, and then what Riley told James, and James told Hung, like Hung just didn't even need to figure that out. And so I think that part of the race, like there's got to be, I feel like moving forward.
Sounds like you want a referee.
Yeah, like a little bit. Like I think I just want like restrictions on like who you can share answers with. Like you shouldn't be able to share answers on the race. Like you got to run like, or in some ways like alliances can really, you could just have like a 5-team alliance like we did this season, and like it can really, it really does, like, you know, the race in some ways is going to become more like Survivor if you're going to have these big group alliances, and you can help each other kind of overcome challenges, and then it becomes more about the social strategy and less about travel blunders and individual team relationship. So that's kind of one piece of it. The other one that I would say is what? What?
I was like, there's hella things you're changing with the race.
No. That, like, there's hella things you're changing with the race.
I would say one thing to squeeze in here. It's pretty different from like this stuff, but I would say what would be cool as a viewer, and I think also as someone who's racing, is for certain legs, especially city legs. Like say you're going to Mexico City, or you go to Manila is actually happening next week. But if you go to a major city, making it a rule that you can't take a cab, and so like the teams have to take the subway or they have to take the bus. I think that would make it pretty cool because you get to see like a more real side of the city. You see more locals as a viewer as well as a racer. You engage more locals when you take public transit. And it's probably a little bit more accurate with how people in those cities live. Because usually if you go to a city, you just take a cab everywhere because it's a little bit easier for them to record and like they can get a quick interview in while you're doing it. But yeah, like having a couple of city legs where it's like no private cars, no taxis. You have to take buses or public transit. It also forces people to like understand the city a little bit more. You can't just tell your cab driver, he or she puts it into Google Maps and then you're good. It's like, okay, I got to take this line and then I got to take this other line.
Idea.
And then, yeah. And so people and it brings navigation a little bit more into it. Which is, I think, a pretty important part of racing. So yeah,
especially now with like all of the flights kind of, I felt like a lot of the flight, like, you know, in the earlier seasons, there's a lot of like flight blunders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, like it's a little less because, you know, some of the flights are pre-booked and like some of the flights are like, you got to hold everyone in customs, which is good, right? Because some people like us probably would have been held at like customs and like, you know, like it's like it evens out that part, but like public transportation and adding that would probably add that like travel chaos back into the race that we love.
Yeah, because there's positives and negatives to the all aboard, right? It catches everybody up, kind of evens the playing field and shows, can you pull ahead again? But I feel like we've spent no time at the airport in the season. And, you know, there's conversations I'm sure that are happening, or like you said, those blunders, or, oh, they got on that flight and we missed it. You know, that sometimes can decide a season. You know, go back to season 7. Like that's how Chen and Joyce won. They got on the flight. Otherwise, you know, Boston Rob and Amber, they're taking home the title. That's, you know, it can happen that way.
Yep.
Last question for the detour. Which game twists would you reimagine? Or is there some that you would create on your own off the top of your head?
Game twist as in, do you mean like more of what?
U-turn, speed bump,
Fast forward,
some other traffic related thing that I can't think of.
I would bring back the fast forwards. Like, I think this season we didn't really have any fast forwards so far.
Right.
And I feel like in the last couple of seasons they haven't done fast forwards. But the fast forwards were always really cool to watch because it always made you think like, are they gonna pull that risky behavior? I did that one like surfing like fast forward, and then Bethany and her partner ended up like coming to the fast forward and like overtaking them, and then they ended up like winning the fast forward. Like that stuff is so fun to see. And then now the team that didn't complete the fast forward has to like go back and try to catch up with the rest of the teams. Like I kind of like that. I mean, I get why production doesn't do it as often. It's expensive to set up a whole nother challenge, and like maybe teams do it and maybe teams don't do it. But I always thought it was like really fun to watch as a viewer. And a fan, like you're like, oh, do you think they'll go for it? So I would bring that back.
Yeah, I think one thing would be pretty cool is, I don't know what it was called, but I know one of the seasons they had the thing where you show up to the pit stop and then you got to beat someone at a challenge there.
Oh yeah.
To actually step on the mat.
They did that in season 30. It was
I don't know what it's called.
I forgot what it was called either. It was like, yeah, but you know
what would you keep that, or would you
I would
make that more frequent?
I would like to see that more. I would like to see that more just because I mean it's pretty it's just like heightened drama, and it's a lot more like one-on-one competition. So.
I think both of your examples really kind of highlight the individual strategy, right? The individual team versus the regular roadblock detour that bunch people up, right? Only one team can get the fast forward. When are you going to use it? When are you going to try to pull away? Maybe break away from an alliance.
Yep. I think another thing that I liked, sorry, I know this wasn't like I don't get 3 options, but I really do like this one. Like in season 30, they got to like switch partners for a leg. I thought that was super cool.
Well, how did that work?
So basically what they did was like you and another team had to like swap partners.
Right.
And so like, let's say if it was like us and like Hung and Chi, like maybe I would take Chi, you would take Hung. And then you guys both had to like make it. And then the last 2 teams like would kind of like you could then eventually you'd unswitch and you'd kind of like have to battle it out.
Yeah, maybe you'd have one of those challenges at the mat at the end of that one.
Yeah. But I like that because it got those are moments that's probably the one of those where it's like it forces you to really not just have an alliance kind of with like you can't just have an alliance and kind of get out of it. You have to learn how to work with other racers. You might not even like them and you still have to get to work with them. So I like that one.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So let's go to the race. Coming in with my blog and my podcast, I try to have as much fun as possible. I got my power rankings here that I went off of based off of, first impressions that we got from CBS, the Instagram stuff that we saw. Not a lot, but there's very little to work with. But I did rank you guys 5th. I thought you guys were sleepers. I thought you had a real chance. You're young. You're really smart. And you placed 5th. And I don't, whatever. So, I mean, but my question is, it's 2 parts. First, why did you come in 5th and not 10th? And then why did you come in 5th and not 2nd or 1st?
Yeah.
I think we're pretty good at not losing, but we could have been better at winning.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer. Like, I think we always like, we were pretty good at navigation, I'd say. We always got to places pretty quickly. I think that in retrospect, I think we took a bit longer with some of the challenges.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that like maybe a part of that like was the alliance strategy. Like we didn't really get a lot of help with like the cello stuff or the plate set. Like there was challenges that I think like we kind of just did them on our own, and we didn't really have like a bunch of teams that we would go up to and be like, hey, can you help us with this? Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? And so
yeah, unfortunate thing is like usually you have like each team, if they're at a roadblock or a detour, they may have like a stroke of genius, and then they figure it out. They have that thing finally click, and then they finish it. But with strong alliances, kind of the downside of alliances, like you didn't see that often, right? Like in Germany, you saw Hung get it, but no one else had that moment of realization. Leo had the moment of realization, Leo and Aparna. And then like every time there's kind of help going on, like at the table setting in Hyderabad, some of the teams just never even had they didn't have to make that connection. They just walked in, just basically just did the very straightforward task. Now that the difficult part that they had to connect in their mind was already connected for them. So yeah, I think that we didn't have access, like we had to have those strokes of genius sounds a little braggadocious, but like we had to have,
right. No, I gotcha.
Like, we had to do that independently in each challenge.
So that was the difference between finishing 5th versus in the final 3, 2, or 1.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I think not finishing 10th, I mean, I think we typically got to places, like we were pretty good at navigation. I think we figured things out, like kind of fairly reasonably, I would say. Figured things out. I think we probably picked the right person to do the right detours in most cases. I mean, like I'm glad that Eswar did the steel drum one in Trinidad. Like he's a musical person. I'm glad that I did the rope walking one in Colombia because I took ballet and I could balance. And like, I think there were certain things or kind of roadblocks or detour. Like the couple that I don't think we did well was, I don't think we should have done the hut building in Manaus. I think we could have placed much higher. We were actually 3rd to the island. But we went for the hut building because we thought, cooking in some seasons, you never know what you're making. It could take longer. Right. A hut building, maybe we'll have a stroke genius and figure it out. Turns out the hut building was just a lot of strenuous backbreaking work. And like the only 2 other teams that did it were like teams with massive guys, the NFL players and the beard bros. And like, it was just like me and Eswar like trying to figure out like this whole massive hut. And like, that one, I think we picked the bad detour on.
And even Jerry, I think it was Jerry who told me it was, you had to go get things here and drag it up a huge hill or something like that. Is that right?
That one was a miserable leg because it was all of this backbreaking work at the market, trying to grab everything, and the bag was heavy. And then you had to go to the island and then more backbreaking work. I wish we had done the food making challenge because like we had gotten to the island before Hung and Chi.
Right.
And they got 2nd. And so if we had just gone to the food making one, we probably could have been 2nd.
We probably would have been 2nd that leg.
Yeah. And because we had gone to the island like at least 5 minutes before Hung and Chi.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think we picked the bad detour that leg.
That being said, I did think some of the detours were the bad detour to do, but they were kind of fun to watch on TV.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad we didn't get eliminated because of the detour we chose in Brazil, but at the same time, it was I think it was just a cooler detour. Like, yeah, we kind of messed up a couple times, but
yeah.
It was cool. It was nice. Like you were in like the middle of the forest.
You just never know, right? Like, but while you're picking a detour, like which one is the right one to do. And so that one, I don't know, leg 4 was, I think the cello one was really hard for you.
Yeah, that was a roadblock.
That was really hard. But I think we did really well in the water bottle. And so like,
Yeah.
Like that one, we thought we were 2nd to last. So we had to put our butts were on fire.
Yeah.
What happened? Leg 5 was France.
It was Paris, yeah, France.
France. Yeah, that was me. That I had tough time on the like painting one, but we made it up with navigation. We caught up with the NFL players by just driving to the carnival games right at the get-go. What else? Germany, sauerkraut, that was tough. Driving the Trabant was terrible. That was terrible. Like that was probably the one like where we had some navigation difficulties. Like the car was stopping. It was a night leg. Like that was tough.
True. Yeah. But the cool thing with Germany was everyone spoke English. So it was really easy to get kind of. Yeah.
The one detour that I'll say was probably my least favorite out of every single one. It was the coolest one, but like it was so painful was the yurts in Kazakhstan. Like,
That was just a route info.
yeah, but I just think that one was so difficult. Like, because the two of us, like, our hands were literally freezing that entire leg.
Sure.
And it was like at some point, or like, I think Ishwar didn't have gloves. He had lost his in Germany. And like, it was just a miserable leg because we were both freezing. We were both like just having the miserable time.
Well, it's I
really enjoy this.
I'm enjoying this. Like, this might be one of my favorite recordings we've done.
Wow,
okay.
I'm gonna do it.
A little bit of PTSD here.
This person should be ready to tell the truth.
Okay.
So you're gonna do it?
I'm gonna do it.
Aparna's gonna do. Okay. Which leg of the race was the best and why?
Oh, okay. I really like Trinidad and Tobago.
Really?
I thought that was the first leg. It was probably the most like insane leg for me and Ishwar. They didn't show a lot of it, but like Ishwar and I got the worst cab once we landed in Trinidad. We showed up to the oil barrels 10 minutes behind the team that got there second to last.
Right.
And we got there and we were like, oh my God, we're going to be the first team that's freaking eliminated on the race. Like, no one wants that. And Ishwar
shout out to Cody and Nathan. We love you guys. But
we do love them. But like, Ishwar had this genius idea of putting the backpacks in the oil barrel. And remember, we're rolling the oil barrel down the road. So his backpack shoots out somewhere. And at some point, he's like, Aparna, switch. And I was like, okay. So we switched. And his back, I was like, Ishwar, yours is so light. Like, what? Like, where's your backpack? And I looked inside and his backpack wasn't there. And this was leg one. And me and Ishwar had made a promise before the race. Like, if we lose our backpacks, we keep racing. Like, we made that promise. And Ishwar was like, we got to go back. It's leg one. I need a backpack. And I was like, dude, we got to keep going. So we just rolled the oil barrels. Thank God we got the ticket to the second flight. We were the last team to get a flight. And me and Ishwar just felt freaking miserable because we're like, the Amazing Race is so much hard, like a bad cab, and we're about to be out. And like, then leg two, the next morning we're about to fly to Tobago. All four of those teams decided to like work together. We could have thought we were like, one of the bus was going to go home, but all four of us, it was us, the blondes, Leo and Alana, Kelly and Levon. And we all thought, come on guys, we could do this. Like, let's like work together. Nobody take a bathroom break when we land in Tobago. Let's all work together and try to get ahead. And we did that. Like, all four of those teams didn't get eliminated. It was beautiful in Tobago. Like, the water was like clear blue. It was like a swimming shot. Like, we like hunted for some fish. Like, there was a steel drum. It's like, it felt like, wow, like we're on the Amazing Race. I was so stressed out of my mind that we might be eliminated, but we were still having an awesome time. And I think every time when I think about the Amazing Race and the memories that I made, I think about that moment where we were like riding the boat in this like beautiful ocean in Tobago. And it's like half feeling of stress and half feeling of like, this is an incredible experience. And that's the race for you.
Yeah, that leg seemed like the most fun. The energy was incredible. For sure. But number two, which country or cultural experience stands out most?
Country or cultural experience? Probably Manaus. Like, that was in Brazil. Like, that leg was, every season you get kind of like an experience with kind of an indigenous community or like a really like, community that's kind of remote, living off the land. They have a very different form of day-to-day life than we do. And that community, like, they all lived off of the land. They kind of had this, they may not have had like everything that we kind of, are accustomed to seeing, but they had each other and they had a really big community. And I think for me, that was the biggest kind of cultural experience to kind of see that. And it was the biggest kind of takeaway. Like, it was the biggest, like, every other race was like this city environment, like we're going and doing things. And then that was just such a very different environment.
You probably could. I think one of the other teams said it when I spoke to them. I think they referenced that as well. And they said in 10,000 lifetimes, 10 million lifetimes, whatever, nobody in their family is ever going to go do that.
Yeah.
Like that was the one thing. I think it was Jerry and Frank, maybe. I could be wrong, but I think they said the same thing.
I agree with that. Yeah. Like when else would you do that? Like when else would you go meet that indigenous community? It's so
never.
Cool. Yep.
Where did things go right and where did things go wrong?
I thought things.
Both of you can answer.
Okay.
We'll amend that. We'll get Eswar back in there.
When did things go right and when did things go wrong? That's a tough one. I would say things went right in Paraguay when we did the bottle dance and we just busted out of there. And like there's a lot of moments. I think whenever we finished the challenge successfully, that was awesome and we felt very elated and happy. But really the rough parts were when you were struggling with the challenge. Because other times you were just in motion.
Yeah. I think probably Paraguay, like the water bottle challenge, I think we got it the fastest out of any of the teams. But we probably learned that in like 5-10 minutes. Yeah. And so that one, we were so stressed that we were so glad that things clicked there. Yeah. Things went wrong. I think probably the U-turn board in Cambodia. I mean, I think that we were kind of hoping that in retrospect, I mean, what if we had done the gardening challenge? Would the NFL players have U-turned another team? Like, what if, like, there's a lot of like, what could have, should have been.
If they don't get there first.
Yeah. Like,
do they get U-turned?
Yeah. Like, or what if the NFL players had been much farther behind the Beard Bros? Would Beard Bros have U-turned NFL players? And like, what if we had been ahead of the NFL? Like there's a lot of like coulda, shoulda, woulda. What if the Beard Bros hadn't burned the board? Would we have, Eswar, I actually think finished it faster than she did. Would we have U-turned Hung and Chi? Would we have made it? And so I think that leg felt a lot like, what could have been. But what if you should finish the towel challenge before D'Angelo? Like, and so I think that leg was like the one that if we could really pull it out of our hat, like for that was not the word I was going to use, but like if we could really like, you saw me change.
I did. I saw it. Like, you took a U-turn there. I saw it.
Yeah. But that was the one that I think would have really surprised us, but it didn't go the way we planned. Yeah. But the way I think about it when I think about the race is like, much rather go out guns blazing via U-turn than bad cab. Like bad cab, I would have been filled with so many regrets. Mm-hmm. Like this is like, I would have wanted to go out like a racer does,
Yeah, I think Kelly and Levon would agree with you, considering that's how it got kind of taken from them. Eswar, I'm glad you guys brought up the U-turn. Well, a couple more things and I'll get you guys out of here. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Eswar, so you see that you get U-turned, and what do you feel in that moment? Is it betrayal? Is it just frustration? Is it, oh no, we're going to be out? What is it when you see it up on the board?
It was a mix of a lot. At first, it was confusion, just because you have to understand the board, and I was very confused in the beginning because, like, I saw D'Angelo and Gary's photo next to ours, and then I also saw their photo again. And so I was just confused. Like, what happened? Like, why is their photo there twice? And then Aparna explained that they actually burned the board. And so that was like, okay, and then there was a sinking sensation, like, oh shit, this is going to be uphill. We might lose. And then there was a sense of betrayal too, because Gary and D'Angelo were one of the teams that we were closer to throughout the race. And so we were just confused why they would U-turn us, because we were, especially when we saw there were two clues left, and they knew who was left. They knew the three teams that were behind them and the Beard Brothers. So it was definitely a mix of a lot of emotions, but I think we processed it pretty well as we headed towards a gardening task, and we just were like, okay, this is just what we're going to be up to. We're going to do this, and then we're going to get out of here, go to the roadblock.
Yeah. I mean, I think we took it pretty well there, but when we go into the title,
I wanted to get to that. Aparna, you get to there, and it comes out, right? And my question is this: I think I can guess how you felt in that scenario, but did it make you think? And let me put it to you this way: like, if you were to race again, would it make you more towards an alliance or lone wolf it with that edge that you showed from that frustration? What do you? Because I feel like it's one or the other that you learned in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have probably invested in alliances more. Right. I think we probably should have solidified a stronger alliance with Leo and Alana, because we were really close to that team, and then probably solidified an alliance with Gary and D'Angelo because we were always kind of on the mats with them and doing around them, and so I think those two teams probably could have had a stronger alliance with. Yeah. I think for me in that moment, it like when I ran into the Tiles Challenge, like D'Angelo just goes, "Hey guys," like super casually, like he's like, later he's like, "Yeah, I forgot I U-turned you guys," and I think I snapped in that moment because I was like,
"Yeah, you did."
Hey guys, me like you just U-turned us, like you just had us like baking in the sun for an hour, building a floating garden, like they're just guys, like so I got super annoyed and I was like, I literally ran in and I was like, "Fuck you," and like I like for like 15 minutes was definitely talking smack with D'Angelo. I was like, "You're so dumb. Like, why'd you do that? Like, we're going to get out of here. This is karma, dude." And like, I was definitely snapped at him, but I could tell he was like getting flustered by it. So it just made me keep wanting to like fluster him up. And then I saw, it was like how you wanted the Mind 5 to crumble, like everyone snapping at one another, on TV.
It's good TV for sure.
So I think somebody was telling me this. They were like, "That was the first time I saw people yelling at each other this season," and I was like,
"Yes,
that's glad that I could deliver." But I think it was like a lot of the alliances had kept it a little bit of drama free, and then once the alliances have to kind of show their true colors, things start to snap. So. True. I mean, I'm super curious how it's going to go down in Manila. Like, will it be? It's because it's basically D'Angelo and Gary are the ones that are on the outs now.
The Thrilla in Manila.
And so it's the three of them versus Gary and D'Angelo. So, will they take them out? Will one of the three go home? Like, I'm so excited to kind of see how it all goes down.
Yeah, it's a city sprint as well, so I'm pretty excited to see what that's about.
Yep. I mean, if D'Angelo and Gary go out, it's karma. If they don't go out, like I hope it's the Beard Bros, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So last clue.
Okay.
Is this a route info?
Last clue. Obviously you have this amazing experience. Your relationship, like you said in the beginning, is transformed for the better. But what's next for you guys? I mean, that's where does the route lead you next? Is it as far as traveling? I mean, you've seen more places here than a lot of people that are watching probably. Does that keep burning? What's next for you guys and maybe your company or whatever it is?
Yeah, I'll take it first.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, I think we're all excited to travel post COVID.
Right.
We've all obviously haven't been doing that. So I think excited for travel after COVID. With the race, maybe I'll just with COVID, I think even just traveling locally, appreciating local restaurants, local businesses, I think it's changed travel in a way. It doesn't have to be global, it doesn't have to be international. Appreciating cultures locally is just as important. And then to be honest, I think, being able to take adventure and risk in your day-to-day, I can't emphasize how much the race has actually changed my life. Started a company after, decided to kind of go get a dog. I don't know, there's just so many moments where I was just like, let's just do it. Why not? That's kind of my new approach, I guess, in life. Yeah. And then lastly, I got to do it with my brother, and that will always be like a memory and experience that we'll share for the rest of our life together.
Yeah.
So like when he has kids, like I'll be able to tell his kids,
that'll be a
like
trip watching this.
Yeah, like
again.
It'll be cool, like showing his
Yeah.
kids, like your dad sucked
Yeah.
at that, like he was so bad, like
That'd be
you know.
pretty
So
cool.
I think
That's pretty cool.
it's gonna be an awesome memory that I'm so grateful I did it with my brother.
You sure?
Yeah. What's next? I think yeah, once the pandemic is over, I would like to travel again. I want to reset my association with Cambodia and my relationship with the country of
Yeah.
Cambodia. I thought it was a beautiful country. It was actually my favorite leg.
Okay.
Just in terms of like obviously the leg didn't go how we wanted, but Cambodia itself was a beautiful country, beautiful people, a place where just I want to see more of it. And so it'd be cool to travel to Cambodia without having the stress of the race. That would be pretty nice. Yeah, and then I think outside of that, like Aparna said, I think all of us in this country were like, you know, we're getting used to life under lockdown, but we're excited to see what's new and like kind of how this experience we've all been through over the last year almost at this point changes our outlook and changes society's outlook on the world basically. Like, and so I'm pretty excited overall for that, just to see, you know, if we can get these vaccines out and like if we can once the pandemic is kind of over, just appreciating those kind of small moments and the people that you interact with a lot more, like just appreciating being 2 feet next to someone. There's not much more to hope. I mean, like there's something very meaningful there that we all probably took for granted.
Yeah, so many people have just told me like, I was just seeing you interact with people on TV. Like I want to just do that with my regular neighbors now.
Yeah.
And like, I think the race has just been like a distraction from what we're going through day and day. And I can't wait for that vaccine to reach the masses.
True.
Yeah. And my outlook has been changed from it, just like everybody else. And one thing that I've sought throughout this whole time is some level of connection. And, you know, the pandemic has brought me to people like yourselves and has challenged me to do something different, put myself out there, create this thing, see where it goes. And it's evolved to me to be able to connect with people like yourself. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you sharing your story, your experiences. Good luck with the beard, Eswar. I know you're pulling your best Riley in Madison.
I'm very conscious of it. So
I know. I voted for you to keep it on the Instagram. You know.
Oh, you did? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, keep rolling with.
I voted don't keep it. I mean,
what are like, not to sound like I'm a celebrity or anything, but what is your Instagram handle? Because I probably just got kind of a lot more people followed me in the last month than ever before. So
it's tribal. I'll share it.
Oh, it's Tribal Council blog. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I remember that. Okay, I thought there was one that like your own like Tom Instagram account or something. But
it's been quite a journey, and it's taken me to meet people like yourselves and the rest of the people on the race, and it's been amazing. And I hope you'll come back sometime soon, and we can talk again about what's going on and all the places that you're getting to. But I appreciate your time, and thanks for being on the ReRACEables podcast.
I appreciate it so much.
Thanks so much for asking us to be on it. Great talking to you.
All right. Take care.